Hi everyone, this is my tutorial for ReproRehab this year 2025-2026. My name is Dr. Andrew Hyman. I was a TA this year, which was a real pleasure getting to know everybody. And the tutorial that I'm going to be going over today is that just recently Posit, which is essentially like the R Studio company, and it does a lot of other open source stuff with R, just released on, let's see what it was, March 12th, I believe. When did this come out? March 5th, apologies, that they're now introducing AI in RStudio, and it's called Posit AI. And so what this is, without kind of reading through all this documentation, is that it is now a native AI, which is going to be using Claude and various models of Claude as of March 2026 that you can use within RStudio. And I'm going to show you today how to set that up, what it looks like, and what advantages this might have for researchers such as myself, and for you if you're watching, on how this might really allow us to actually be efficient with our workflows, to be able to avoid hallucinations when trying to use AI to kind of help write code, why this is safe to use for being able to use it natively. And it's really all thanks to how Posit has kind of set this thing up, and the agreements they've kind of reached with Claude or with Anthropic. And so the thing that this is really doing, and I just want to be able to kind of show you this here, and I'll show you how this is going to work within there. So I'm not going to go over this, but really what this is going to be about, and there's a kind of free trial, but there's also a $20 per month is what it takes to be able to get this. And you can try either one, see if you like it. But the thing that is really, I think, sold me on being able to give this a try is that they have a security and zero data retention policy, which they have worked out with the provider of their AI model that they're using in this AI assistant, Anthropic, so that all data is deleted. And so there's zero data retention. They have this agreement with Anthropic, right? And so it is just being used, Posit AI is just being used exclusively to generate a response, and then immediately deletes everything. Your code, your data, and the text are never stored, and their servers are never used to train future models. Okay, there is an opt-in thing where you can kind of allow Posit to have some kind of tracing of that data, basic logs and stuff like that, but you are already by default opted out of that. So your data will stay on your machine, and everything that you ask and query is also going to never kind of leave your machine or the environment that you're working in. Okay, and so I'll kind of, so you can start the free trial, and there's a lot of documentation here. I was really interested in trying this out because one of the things that I always ran into when it came to perhaps using AI to kind of check code or run a query AI with an error that I might have had through my code is that I would never give it the full script. And sometimes maybe my script is 1,000 lines long, right, or even a few hundred lines long. I just want to be able to figure out this one thing. And at times I found that AI would get kind of confused, and it would start to hallucinate and have problems with really being able to contextualize everything, because it's running its own instance. It's running on a separate server. It's running non-natively, right? And I didn't want to have to continue to copy and paste my code into this server, especially if I thought that some of that code was proprietary, and I didn't want it to just be sent into the servers to be kind of mined for data within these companies. So I would always give it just a snippet. It would not always then give me the correct response, because it didn't know that I was using dplyr or something like that, or another kind of package that would get confused. So it wasn't working. I was finding it not as efficient as need be, and I was actually using AI less and less, which is not a bad thing, but it was just, I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of efficiency, and there was less and less use cases for really being able to use it here. So I was interested in this. I'm a longtime R user. I wanted to be able to understand how we could potentially use this to effectively how to effectively use AI and being able to use it securely to really be able to help also reproducibility, which is the main thing here. So I wanted to also explore that if it knew everything in my environment, it has access to the files natively and it has access to the data and everything, how can I then use that to leverage that to actually also create some documentation to be able to now start to implement some more reproducibility principles. So I'll show you here. I have just a well, first the thing, how you have to make sure that you have to install the most latest version of RStudio. So before, I thought that this was simply about using any version, or at least a more up-to-date version of RStudio. That's not true. You actually have to go to what's known as the daily build, and these are somewhat developmental. This one was actually released 2 days ago, and I downloaded it. I had to uninstall my old RStudio to install my new RStudio, and I'll show you why. It has to do with the sidebar. But otherwise, not much had changed. But this was something that I had to do. Otherwise, I was not going to be able to do that. So I have a Posit AI account now. I already had set that up. That's easy enough to do just through, starting your free trial. And I'll show you now that I have within my folder here, I have an R project that I am now going to click on, and this is just an empty project right now. You can see in my environment I don't have any other data in here, and so this is RStudio. There's nothing unique about it so far, right? This is, if you're a long-time RStudio user, you're already very familiar with it. I already have had uploaded in here the MT cars data set, and that's what I'm going to use instead of perhaps a more rehab focused data set. But this is just what I want to be able to kind of experiment with at first. Now the thing that's new about this build of RStudio is that I have this sidebar, and this was what was missing in my previous build. So I had uninstalled my old RStudio version and installed this new version of RStudio to be able to get just this sidebar function. And what this does now is I have my Posit Assistant here on the left hand side. Okay, and I can put it on the right hand side or left hand side, etc. And this assistant now, if I walk you through this, it has the different models in it. So right now I'm using Claude Sonnet 4.6, but I could use, and I think it's cut off here that you can't see, but I could use other models from Claude as well, such as Haiku, which is apparently the fastest, Sonnet is balanced, and Opus is smartest. So which of these you should use is interesting. I think there's a lot of unknowns in terms of like which of these will give you the most reproducible results or the most rigorous results. But nevertheless, you can choose which model you're going to run. This is all being run natively. Okay, then you can have a thinking mode. You can have it off, low, medium, high. I don't know what that means. It's default to medium. It seems good enough. You can have a planning mode, right? And this is again something that Claude in particular really likes to do, to be able to say, okay, let's really think through our problem first before we just start putting prompts in and going from there. Okay, now one of the things that so I can put a prompt in here just like any AI assistant, and it will kind of do its thing for me, no problem, right? And so maybe the thing that I want to do now is create a script that's going to find within my MT cars data set here which features are most predictive of miles per gallon. Now I could do that, put in there and get my script and everything, but I wanted to like slow down now. That's nothing special about that in terms of being able to, you can do that through just using AI on the internet, right? What's different about this is that since it's native, I want to be able to kind of create other types of documentation that's going to help me through this. So I would like to create a markdown file that will be a data dictionary for my MT cars data set. And so if you've been in research for any amount of time, creating a data dictionary can be very time consuming. If you have an AI assistant now that can read your dictionary, read your data, and do some at least fairly good reasoning, can at least give you a start perhaps. And so, and this is what happens now when I start using the AI assistant, is it will think, and then it will kind of always ask me if you'd like me to carry out this task. So you're not kind of totally hands off the wheel and you're just letting it do this. There is much more kind of almost conversational kind of thinking through these types of things. So Posit Assistant would like to run this code to inspect empty car structure. And we say, sure, allow. Okay, so it's running that, it's thinking that, and then it's like to do summary. Okay, allow. Now I have everything I need to write a thorough data dictionary. Okay, and so again, this is all happening natively. It is going to be thinking now to create a markdown file, which is something you could now upload onto your GitHub. And let's see what is created here. Okay, so can Posit Assistant use write? Okay, so Posit Assistant would like to create empty cars data in data dictionary. So it's going to say that within, I believe, within a directory within my current project, it is going to create a markdown file called dictionary within data, within whatever, within my project, I believe here, that will have the following content. Okay, and I can look through this, or I could copy it if I don't want to have it write it for me effectively that way. And it looks like it's giving me a pretty good summary of everything. I'm going to say allow, see what happens. And so here, okay, it didn't create a separate directory, it just created a, I guess I kind of misread that initially, so that's a good thing to do. And it now created my a markdown file with everything about this. And so that were all of the variables I have here. The file empty cars has been created in your RR 2026 folder and includes an overview table, a section for each 11 variables, and notes section flagging that. Okay. Alright, so I can open this up, and I now have my data dictionary, okay, as a markdown file. And that's okay. It's kind of telling me the source, the observations, the variables. Super helpful, right? Miles per gallon, MPG, miles per gallon, property value. This is good. This is, you know, an acceptable data dictionary, and it did it immediately, okay? And that's perhaps something that I think that AI can perhaps help with the most, is that maybe you have 1,000 variables, and you don't necessarily want to have to write a data dictionary for 1,000 variables, but you know it's the right thing to do for reproducibility. This is something that can kind of perhaps take that off, and it keeps it, again, local. You're not feeding your data anywhere. So that's super helpful. Okay, so now I have my data dictionary. I would like to create a regression model that predicts MPG, or a regression model that identifies the variables most predictive of MPG. Okay, so now presumably what it's going to do is, it's kind of thinking through this, it's now going to create an R script, and again, happening locally. It's thinking about Posit, so it would like to load the predictive modeling skill. Go for it. Okay, so it's kind of building these are perhaps other skills that is actually specific to the AI model, not necessarily to different types of libraries. I can see that it's thinking, it's talking about lasso versus cross-validation. Just trying to read it very quickly. Before diving in, a couple of things worth flagging. Prior exploration, we already ran string, head, and summary on the full data set. That's fairly minimal, so it shouldn't meaningfully bias modeling decisions. We'll continue. Small n only has 32 rows and 10 predictors. We'll need to be cautious about overfitting. I'll use cross-validation rather than relying on a simple train test split, though I'll still hold out a test set for a final evaluation. Okay. Posit Assistant would like to run this R code to check available cores. Say decline. I don't need it to necessarily say, you know, let's do this route too. Like, can you cancel the video? Would you like me to do instead? We're not going to run parallel cores, but so let's just run a lasso regression on the data to identify variables that predict MPG. Okay. And so for those of you not aware, parallel detectors just means it's going to, figure out how many cores I have. And so what's interesting here, what do we have here? Okay, one thing I didn't talk about, that you do have a limited monthly limit on how many tokens you can use to be for this. So right here I have 200,000 tokens. I've used 20,000 already. So there might be a limitation in terms of how much we can really do, in terms of how large the project can be. So you might have to be able to use it more effectively, but already I've created a nice data dictionary, which was pretty cool. Okay, Posit Assistant would like to run this R code to split matches. Okay, let's allow that. Let's see if it will go. Installing tiny models. Okay. Install, let me know, and I'll continue from here. Okay, so let's go ahead. Please create a script to run the model. So how's this running? So you can see my tokens are slowly going up. Okay, alright, so now it created a script for me. MT cars lasso. Nice. Click on that. Okay, and that's already now being populated with all these things. It's not that I have to require that to bear then. I now have my complete script here. Doesn't seem to be throwing any errors right off the bat, which is nice. And I'll go ahead and stop there so you can see that I have my data dictionary, I have my lasso. I could probably run this, right? And I could probably say, give me a summary of this. I could say, write a statistical analysis section for this. Let's just do that really quickly. Please write a statistical analysis section for the model you just created. Okay, so now it's reading that script. Now, I haven't talked at all about whether or not this is what you should do, but this is what you can do. And most likely there are probably some people who will do this. Definitely want to check everything. Definitely want to run through everything. I'm obviously being highly efficient and very, so now it's going to create another markdown. I'll say allow. Okay, so now I have another markdown that is just the statistical analysis. It's giving me the overview of everything that it did. Okay, I can open that up. Might even pop that out a little bit. It's a little hard to do here. It's okay, make this window a little bigger. Okay, tell me the outcome variable, the predictive variable, the null model baseline. I could probably even continue to change this. It gave me the reference for what kind of package I was using. So all of these things, there's a lot of opportunity here, right? And it's continuing to work with me as perhaps a more embedded assistant here that can be super valuable, especially to those who may not be super familiar with these types of models, or might be using a new data set and are trying to just work through it as efficiently as possible, or as they're creating a new data set that gets larger and more complex. You could create variables here, and then you could say add to the README, into the data dictionary, that I created a new variable and it means this, and it can do that for you, right? So now you have this more back and forth and more kind of almost collaborative type of assistant than simply kind of tabbing from RStudio, copy and pasting your code, putting it into Claude or some other AI agent, and then it returning something, you coming back over here and you're doing something, and you lose that continuity between your thinking, your workflow, your environment, and that of AI. So now it's all here, it's all secure, it's relatively inexpensive, and you now have the opportunity to be able to do a lot of interesting stuff with it. I think there's still a lot of questions about if this is the thing that we should do, if this is something that's lost here or gained here, that we might be missing. A lot of things to discuss, but being in science, that's what we do. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Lots of things to discuss. If you're interested about it, please reach out. Good talking to you all. See you later.